Hey there kids, it's me, Mr. Creepypasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, I'm going to tell you about Chilling, the awesome horror app that I'm partnered with. In case you haven't heard, every week I have new stories released over on the Chilling app. There's now over 1,000 stories on Chilling, with a bunch of other YouTube narrators and professionals to choose from. On Chilling, you can do things that you'll never be able to do on YouTube. Choose from over 1,000 individual stories that are sorted into curated playlists, or you can even create your own. On Chilling, we give you so much flexibility to listen the way that you want to. This includes a Chilling game-changing feature, our ambient menu. You can change the background sounds of any story at any time to fit your mood. Go from rain to campfires at the press of a button. It's totally revolutionary, and honestly, you really need to try it. There's been a number of awesome updates at Chilling, such as the ability to download stories for offline listening and the new social feature. You can now discuss your favorite stories with other users and with friends. And we're just getting started, so not only are we adding hours of new content every week, but original video content is also in the works. Chilling is evolving into a must-have app for all horror lovers. So go start your free trial over at Chilling, check out my personal playlist there, and this month, Chilling's also doing another PS5 bundle giveaway. So all you gotta do is start your free trial, leave a review on the Google app or the Play Store or wherever you get your apps from, and let us know what you think. Click the link in the description down below for more details, and hey, nothing like winning a free PS5. And now, on to tonight's story. Caleb held the door open once more as he reached Mr. Kearney's office, his steely gaze never wavering. I did my best to ignore it and go inside as Paul placed his crutch down, and then took a seat. He fumbled in his drawer and got his smokes before offering me one, and then turned to Caleb and muttered, "If it's all the same to you, I'd like to talk to Mr. Pruitt privately." The hunter narrowed his eyes, but didn't dare argue with his employer. Instead, he walked towards the door and said, "Fine, but I'll be right outside." Once again, we were alone. Mr. Kearney lit one of the Marlboros and gestured for me to take a seat. "I'd like to stand, if it's all the same to you. Nerves are pretty much shot," I responded, crossing my arms. "Are you second-guessing your decision to join KTHU?" he asked. I let out a long sigh. I knew from the moment I got here something was off. But this shit, the monsters, and who knows what else? I want to help. But I can't do that unless someone tells me what the hell this is all about. Kearney let out a laugh. "You really are something." Then he looked longingly towards the blacked-out windows of his office. I let the silence linger for a moment, and then decided to repeat the very same question he had asked me in the morning. "What did you lose?" I knew the answer, but I still wanted to hear it from his own lips. He let out another puff of smoke before responding. "My wife, Renee Hollister Kearney. Should have been almost 30 years for us." This time, I did take a seat. "What happened to her?" "To answer that, I'll have to tell you everything I know about the storm. Why it is we do what we do," he answered. Then he proceeded to push aside clutter on his desk and reveal a map of the Tri-County area. I clung to every word that he said. "It was 1999 when we first encountered the storm. Olivia was no more than a few years old, still nursing. Back then we were just like you. Wet behind the ears, searching for a thrill. Storm chasing was Renee's idea," he explained, as he pointed toward a red scrawled circle on the map. "We found Emerald Bay by accident. Followed a tip by a fellow tracker that said he'd seen lots of strange storms in this area. When we got here and checked our equipment, we started to think his claims were an over-exaggeration. It wasn't long after that we were proved wrong. Weather around here is unpredictable because it doesn't follow the rules of nature." He paused, staring me down before adding, "As you've seen, something else is at the heart of those storms." "Creatures," I guessed, to which he nodded absently. "Of course, we didn't know that back then. That first storm nearly killed us. Had to run from town with barely the clothes on our back. Having an infant only made things worse. Those beings, whatever you want to call them, could track us for miles. That's how we stumbled upon this place." He gestured about randomly and added, Scrambled inside and managed to turn on the signal. The only thing that saved our lives. Hold on. Are you telling me the station was already here? How long has KTHU been here? I asked in surprise. Hard to say, but when we checked the broadcast, last one was from July 12th, 1987. Mr. Cuny said as he lit his next cigarette and scooted his chair over towards a safe hidden behind a bunch of other clutter. He opened it up and tossed me a VHS tape with that date on it. What's this? I asked as I noticed that it didn't have any other markings. That? What has happened to the crew before us? Cuny said as he then gestured towards the old TV set on the wall. I walked over to it and inserted the tape, waiting as the grainy images appeared. Several people were appearing in what looked like closed-circuit network. There wasn't any sound, but it was easy to see what was happening. The stations were invaded by those strange creatures that held human skin over their bodies like a coat. Their eyes were glowing amidst the static as the crew did their best to fight them off. But it wasn't enough. One by one, they were picked off to be slaughtered. The maddened creatures ripped them to shreds like paper. It wasn't long until none of them were left standing. And the screen went dead. Same proved true every last tape we found. All of them are gone, Cuny told me, and then laughed. What? I almost forgot. It's been so long. There was one survivor. You've already met him. I paused and then remembered a few choice words spoken to me when I first arrived. Jim? But how? I asked. Cuny shrugged. Last year was barely cohesive. Spine bruised in 3 places. Babbled like an idiot. It took a few days before he finally recovered, and once he did, hardly had any recognition of what had happened. I scratched my head and realized that explained why the whole place had so much wear and tear. So you just decided to take up the call and do what? What exactly does this station do? As I'm sure you must have guessed, we learned pretty quickly that the signal the tower emits causes a paralyzing effect on the creatures that masquerade in this town. Jim knew little else except that the broadcast couldn't be interrupted. Naturally, we wanted to leave. There was a problem. During the initial attack, Renee was attacked. Jim said it was an infection and she wouldn't last long if we didn't do something, he said solemnly. That's exactly like with Martin. Why didn't you say anything earlier? Because it wouldn't make a difference. My wife got lucky because we acted quickly, Paul snapped back. What do you mean that it wouldn't make a difference? Tell that to Martin. The only way to stave off the infection is by capturing one of those things alive. I swear we almost lost her anyway. Cuny looked away and then muttered, After that we discovered the connection between the monsters and the storms. As dangerous as it sounded, we decided to start tracking it. And that's all you know? That's all you need to know, Cuny said firmly. Well, that's not good enough, I growled. Only thing we can hope for now is that Martin goes peacefully, the old man declared, darting his eyes away. I slammed my fist down, forcing him to keep his attention on me. You know, I think I figured out the real problem here, and it isn't that there's the monsters that are too dangerous. It's that you've given up the fight before you even started. Just because your wife died doesn't mean all hope is lost. Don't you dare lecture me about things you hardly understand. You've been here 3 days, and this station has been here 30 years. It knows things you couldn't even comprehend. Cuny snapped back. Caleb was at the door, overhearing our outbursts. I told you to keep a level head, the hunter warned. Shut the hell up! You're just as bad as him! Dylan, I understand what you're trying to do. You want this all to be wrapped up nicely and have a bow on top, but that isn't how the world works. Monsters or not, people die, Cuny told me, and then sighed and said, I'm done talking for now. We need to rest and recover before the next run. I looked at him with disbelief. I growled. You haven't answered all my questions yet. Caleb stepped between us, his hand level with his belt as he muttered, Maybe you didn't hear, but the boss said he was done talking. I gave them both a stink eye. This isn't over, I added. And then I walked out, frustration and anger filling my every thought. It was sickening to think that they would just let one of their comrades die when there might be a chance at saving them. I walked to the first floor, pacing back and forth randomly as I tried to think of a solution. I came across a vending machine and used it as an outlet for my feelings, kicking and slamming my fists against the old machine. Took your money too, huh? A voice said to my right, startling me. I looked over and saw Natalie there, her eyes puffy and red from the tears that she had shed. I gave her a half-hearted smile. I said, just needed something to hit. She nodded, slumping against the wall and muttering, Guess I should give it a try sometime. I nodded, standing alongside her and saying, How's Martin? Natalie looked away, clearly not wanting to talk about it. Doesn't look good. You two are, pretty close, huh? He saved my ass more than once. I just wish... I wish I'd been there. Mr. Kearney says I'm not cut out to be a field agent, but I know that if I had been there, things would have turned out different. I didn't know what to say to make her feel better, so instead I gestured towards the large syringe she was carrying. Is that for him? Yeah. Do you believe this shit's enough to knock down 3 full-grown men? Jim gave him a dose about 19 minutes ago, and it's hardly even making a dent. Natalie said with a hollow laugh. It's just gonna get worse, isn't it? She nodded. Trying her best not to cry, she muttered, And there isn't a bloody thing we can do about it. What Mr. Kearney had told me concerning his wife flickered across the back of my mind. Maybe there is, I said as I grabbed the syringe and said, You said this was strong, right? Like it could knock out an elephant or something? Yeah, probably. Why? What if we use this on one of those things? Natalie didn't seem to follow, her face a mix of confusion. But those things can offer an antivenom for Martin, but only if we bring one back alive. What? How do you know that? She whispered, her eyes sparkling with excitement and a hint of concern. Kearney, he told me, but he's given up already because he thinks it's too risky. But with this... I paused and I gestured to the drug. We can go into town and snatch one of those things. Natalie bit her lip. She was excited, but she was also nervous. We can't. We shouldn't. The boss would kill us if he found out. If we do nothing, Martin will die. She hesitated, at least for another moment, but then nodded to show she was on board with the scheme. All right. So how do we do this? She asked with a shaky voice. The weather van still has some weapons in the back. If we leave now, we can get back before daybreak and no one will be the wiser. Natalie was doing her best to contain her excitement. We agreed to meet in the garage in 10 minutes. I went to the break room to gather a few more supplies. I thought our plan would be foolproof, but we ran into a snag the second we stepped into the garage bay. Caleb was standing there, leaning against the van and wiping his hands as he finished refitting new tires onto it. He tipped his hat up and gave us a long sigh. You know, something told me you might try something stupid, Dylan, he said, and then gave a sneer towards the blonde and added, But you, Natalie, I thought you knew better. Caleb, we have a plan. We can save Martin's life. I'm sure you probably think that you do, but I'm afraid I can't let you leave. It's not safe. You know that, Nat. I clenched my fist and scanned the floor to find something that could cause a distraction. And then I kicked an old oil barrel towards him and shouted, Run, Natalie! The blonde hesitated for a moment as Caleb jumped out of the way, and then the barrel slammed to the back of the van. Finally, she got up the nerve and dashed to the driver's seat. Caleb reached for his gun and aimed for my head as I pulled the passenger door open and told her, Start the engine! She glanced into the mirror and revved it up as Kayla bounded towards the van again, but she peeled off before he had the chance. Pressing the button inside the console for the garage door to open, we zoomed out into the dark country road around the station as Kayla was left watching us from the shelter of the darkened parking space. "Oh God, we are so dead later," Natalie said. "Not if this works," I countered as we made our way out of the woods and onto the road that led to the town. I checked the gear that we had. It'll be simple. We go in, we grab one of the weirdos, we get out. They won't even know we're coming. Suddenly, Natalie slammed on her brakes and shrieked, "What the hell?" As I looked out towards the horizon, I saw why she had come to a stop. The townsfolk were standing there, all in a row, almost like statues, staring straight towards us. And as we looked about, I realized there were more of them in the tree line, ready to pounce. Natalie gritted her teeth. "You got any more bright ideas?" Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and as always, I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video on YouTube or listening to tonight's podcast on the podcast. And I would very, very, very much appreciate it if you guys hit that subscribe button or you hit that bell, or actually I think you have to do both, hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell, and make sure that all of your notifications are turned on so you actually see whenever new stories come out, because there's a new story that comes out almost every day of the week. And as always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody who is on my Patreon. That means everybody. Everyone who is from the $1 tier all the way up to the "God, why do you pledge that much" tier. But I especially want to give a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Kyle Reznak, Happy Birthday Ollie Whale, David Martin, scare-ington, the unkempt, Angelus, Spanky, Snootchie bootchies, Autistic Spidey, phruty, Seclude, Lupita Galvan, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Rebecca Harper, Merxinum, Red Shadow Cat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demyx, Sean Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trenchcoat, Turtleman, Rob Likes Sharp Things, Chaos Arts, Cryolinium, Zachary Gruffius, Lord Life's Best, Goreng Trimagacy, Maria Walker, Pain Gravy, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Aka Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Naughty Devil, Voice of Sands, Coffee Zombie, Matthew McNeese, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Reltazol, Ficomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tali Sue, William King, Darth Miver, Michael Ortiz, Satanic Aries, Nessie, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Croconut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Nicholas Sicardi, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades' Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvart, Kiri the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. As always, you guys are the MVPs. Everybody who's on that list, everybody who's on that Patreon, everybody who's in the description, thank you so much. And if you'd like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. And as always, everyone, sweet dreams.